This episode of the Wedding Film School Show is brought to you by MusicBed, the best music licensing platform for wedding filmmakers. Head over to themusicbed.com and enter our code WFS on checkout to get a free month on your annual wedding subscription. Now, on to the show.
I wonder how many people are running multiple businesses alongside their creative endeavor.
You know, if you're starting a wedding filmmaking business, you are entrepreneurial in some way, shape, or form. You know, you are a wedding filmmaker maybe for a while, then you say, oh, you know what's a really good idea? This type of business.
You know what I like about having multiple businesses is the synergy that you get between them. It actually reduces your cost.
You can run way more efficiently if you are running, 8 businesses that share some similarities.
It takes the pressure off of the other parts of your business that are doing really well.
Definitely.
It gives profit back to those businesses. When we need something, we buy it. Even just the fun side of running a business, which is making your business more successful, investing back in it. It allows that to be much more attainable when one thing can have a down year and the other thing can pick up the slack. Hey guys, welcome to the Wedding Film School Show. We are here in season 3, and today it's not me and Jared, but today it's Bobby Burns and I. How you doing, Bobby?
Hello. I am doing great. I am excited to be back on the show. This is, well, if they're in order, this will be my second appearance on this season alone. It might be a new world record, but yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's one of those
good stuff in store.
Yeah, and if you don't know Bobby, which you should, but Bobby's a filmmaker up in the Minneapolis area, and he owns a company called Redmond Digital Media.
Correct.
And today we're going to be talking about kind of a subject, I think, in wedding filmmaking and just in the creative industry in general. I wonder how many people are doing what we're talking about today, which is running multiple businesses, maybe alongside their creative endeavor.
Yep. And to clarify, I think, Jay, I was thinking about this before. Multiple businesses can mean a lot of things.
Yes.
So I think multiple businesses could be so again, my company is Redmond Digital Media. So it could be that and Wedding Film School. I mean, to me, that's two separate
and it could be multiple businesses or multiple lines. Maybe they're
not
technically.
I was going to say similarly, you guys have Huxley and you have Merriman and you have Stop Go Love, and those are all wedding filmmaking brands. And I know they all kind of
I also
operate under a similar umbrella. But
Pixel Press Media, which is our web design firm. I also I have a parent company called High Sales Media, which we don't really use much anymore, but it's where we do our corporate work under. And then I also own a company that we're starting. Well, I own Outpost Studios, which is our outsourcing studio. And then we're launching Luma Sites, which is a wedding filmmaking, probably be a subsidiary under Pixel Press, but it's a wedding filmmaking centered web design company.
Templated designs and whatnot.
So it's
but it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be all creative.
It could be that you own a dry cleaning company and a wedding filmmaking company.
Something totally separate. So I have another business that's totally separate. It's not a creative endeavor. Or the final one that I think is also important, Jay, to call out. What do you think about look, obviously it's unique in owning multiple businesses. That's kind of its own thing. But I also think there are definitely some correlations and some lines that we can draw, some similarities between, a lot of people are working a full-time salary job and shooting weddings on the side. And I think there's some correlation there
100%.
too. It's not exactly the same, but
I think there's a difference. And we could talk about maybe what are the differences between running multiple things, owning multiple things, having multiple lines of business, and being bivocational.
Yeah.
Because I'm technically still bivocational as well. I have a position.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
I have a position at a church, and I work basically full time there. It takes up a lot of my time. And so I'm kind of good at multitasking. I'm also pretty informed on the pluses and minuses of this lifestyle. So I figured let's talk about it a little bit in some of the pluses and minuses. And I think the first thing I was going to think through, Bobby, is I wonder how many people in the wedding filmmaking industry are, I know most people are not full time, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure the total numbers on that, but I think it's an overwhelming majority of people. I wonder how many of them, though, own or operate multiple lines of business or multiple different companies. I wonder if that's like common.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, so you're talking about somebody who's full-time and owns something else, or maybe they're full-time in their other thing, in owning their other thing, in weddings they're building up. Part of me thinks it's more common than what we think. If you're starting a wedding filmmaking business, you are entrepreneurial in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of times I think those desires of being entrepreneurial bleed out into other things. And, you are a wedding filmmaker, maybe for a while, and then you say, oh, you know what's a really good idea? This type of business. Or, you know what I could do better? This. Okay. Or, you know what product the world needs? This.
You're entrepreneurial, right, Bobby? Have you
Yes.
tried any things that have been failed businesses? Have you had any failed businesses?
I don't think so.
Oh man.
And I think part of that is I'm like hyper critical and hyper safe. Like I play everything so safe. Like detrimentally safe.
I would say I'm not safe really, but I am like thoughtful. Yeah. So I haven't let me think. I bought a printing press thingy, like a large format printer and a laminator. Printing? Like a giant like a 10-foot wide laminator.
I love it.
Because I was like, oh, let's get into print. Because I like print. I like sign making. Yeah. Like it's something I love. But I couldn't sell it. But I bought this big printer, right? So it's in the back still, in our studio, this gigantic printer, right?
So anyway, if you guys need a sign made,
if you want to buy a large format printer, I will there we go. Basically give it to you. But this guy, so I buy it right from a person I knew, and they're like, oh yeah, we got to go. Give me this money for this, and then come and pick it up because my business partner who was working with me, he just lost his mind and he went crazy. And I was like, okay, I'll buy this.
What does that mean?
Yeah. I'll buy
red flag number one.
Yeah, they went crazy. They caused all these issues. But like the person let us into the building and everything seemed fine. I buy this thing. Literally,
I'm getting the sense that maybe this was just stolen. Is that
well, I get a call like 18 months later, and it's from a lawyer. And they're like, that wasn't yours to buy. This person sold it to you illegally.
I was like, problem? I don't know.
Bro, dude, literally, I bought it from the financing company. I did not know they told us they would sell it to us because he wouldn't pay. I don't know.
Weird.
So that but I haven't made $1 off that, and it was like $10,000 of investments. I almost bought a cotton candy company at one point. Yeah, because they're in the wedding industry.
Because that just falls right in line with all your other creative endeavors.
Well, they're in the wedding industry.
True.
You know what? I also own that I never ever talk about. We own a photo booth company.
Oh.
Yeah, so we do photo booths.
How's that? You do them often? Would you call that a success or a failure at this point?
We probably do 60 events a year.
That's a success.
I kind of hate it. It's a pain. Yeah. But I'm not totally certain. Yeah. It could be a lot more successful. And so this is kind of what we're going to get into. I know for a fact it could be more successful if I gave it more time.
Yeah. Well, time becomes like the ultimate. I mean, time is money. We always say that, whatever. But like time becomes like your benchmark of value and like your greatest commodity. And I think like as humans, we already kind of know that. And especially as we get older, I think that comes more into play. But even in other senses, like in entrepreneurship, that time is so valuable. And Jay and I were kind of talking about this where it's like, I don't know how Jay does it. Jay has like 12 different businesses. I have like 3. And look, when you start businesses, it makes a lot of other aspects of starting new businesses easier, I would say.
Well, that's typically what I try to do is find things that complement, like for instance, the cotton candy company. I knew them from the wedding industry.
Yep. And then they can play off of each other, and maybe some of the startup stuff or buying it and transitioning it, making the changes. You've already done it with other businesses. So like there is some of that, but at the same time, like you only have so much time. And I think that's what I always run into of like, there have been like, I've had a couple like, man, I wish I could remember what they were. I always have these like random like product ideas where I'm like, oh, this would be cool. Like wedding filmmakers would like this. But A, I've never manufactured anything. And B,
wedding film school should.
Time.
Wedding film school should.
We talked about that a long time ago, didn't we? Talk about
I got a bag I want to make.
I don't want to give it away, but is it a Pelican case that we talked about?
No, not that one. A different one. Okay. But I got a bag I want to make. Where I'll just say it because no one's gonna make this and probably isn't that useful.
And if you do, thank you.
I would like some kind of like sling or something that would carry like 3 lenses on it and holster your gimbal.
Ooh, I like it.
Because like when you're walking,
also gimbals are so much more like durable these days. I would say
like if you could like slip like one of those gimbal thing into one of those bags and walk with it on your side and then kind of holster it like a gimbal holster.
Dude, we could do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
What if we make a universal gimbal holster?
Yeah, it has to be universal. It has
All
to
right, guys, the podcast is done. We're going to go start another business. And thanks for
It'd be a wedding film school brand. And like, I'll call them.
It could be in the shape of the wedding film school logo somehow.
Yes, cool. It actually will be red. It'll be a red bag that you bring to weddings.
I like it. We're getting something with this. We'll chat more after the podcast.
No, but yeah, no, all kinds of random ideas that, I'm with you. Like you just have, and you're like, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And then you don't have time.
I don't have time. I don't want to put the money into it. I don't know that it would succeed.
Well, why don't you tell everybody, Bobby, tell them about your other lines of business, just because we kind of talked around that. But
yeah, so my main, whatever we'll call it, main thing, Redmond Digital Media, doing wedding films. We do some commercial work as well. Wedding Film School, part owner of this, along with Jay and Jared. Creating content for you guys. And then my non-wedding creative related one, I own a place called The Wilderness. It's here in Minneapolis. It is a co-working space with a, let's call it a fitness or well-being concept kind of worked into it. So we own, it's like 18,000 square feet. Co-working, so people can come in, they can have an open desk membership where they sit wherever they want. They can have a dedicated desk membership where they have the same desk every time they come in. They can leave stuff there, it's only their space. And we also have private offices. But yeah, so like one of the things that we do differently, like there's lots of great co-working spaces, local places, big places like WeWork, whatever. We're a lot less like corporate feeling, and we have a gym. Like we want it to feel like you're outdoors. So we have, it's turf, but we have grass running right through the middle. We have, ropes and rings and things to swing from and climb on, and we pull from a lot of different things. I'm not on here that often, so for those who don't know, myself and the other founder of that business, my business partner, we met competing on and training for American Ninja Warrior. So we pull from that, we pull from rock climbing, we pull from traditional cardio and free weights and stuff like that. So basically just encouraging people to not sit for 8 hours a day, get their body moving. It doesn't have to be anything extreme or hard or dangerous, but moving around. And then we also have an event space worked into that too. So we have a speakeasy, a theater, kind of a lounge area.
Seems like it would be a great place for all these out of shape wedding filmmaker editors to just be standing on a treadmill.
Man, plop down, $200 a month, sit where you want and edit from the space and get up when you have hit a roadblock, walk around on some balance beams, swing from some rings.
And then go to Bobby, find him in the studio and say, can you review this film for me? And he will do all live film critiques for anyone who joins The Wilderness.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so that's my other business. We are, it was probably about 2 years in the making. And then we are just coming up on our 1 year anniversary of opening our doors.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I think the main reason people are starting other businesses, right, is money. They want more money. I think the secondary reason was
ultimately
they have good ideas and they want inspiration. But like money and like making money is probably one of the number one reasons. They want to have diverse income streams. So I think we should talk a little bit. Okay, let's talk about the perks. And then I
Yeah.
think we should talk about some of the very big non-perks. And then I think we should kind of land on, like, you know, if you're considering being multi-vocational, bivocational, it's particularly in a way that you own the other business.
Yep.
Because what's weird about owning, like, if you work at another thing, right? It's like that takes your time, but it doesn't all the time take your brain.
Yes.
Or your
That
emotions.
is a great way to put it, I would say.
Even shooting a wedding, like it's like I shoot the wedding and then it's out of my life. Like the business itself, the entity now becomes like, Bobby, you don't have kids. I have a child, another one on the way. The best way I can describe it for you, Bobby, is like the way that you think about someone that you love, the anxieties, the fears, the like my wife is pregnant now, right? And so every time she moves at night, I wake up.
Are you okay?
I'm worried, right? And it's like the anxiety. That's what it's like to own a business. And so we'll talk about that.
Yeah, again, I don't know that exact reference, obviously, but like I feel what you're saying for sure.
Yes, it's very similar. I would say, like, you don't, now you just know what it's like in some ways.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I'm prepared.
The way to be, it becomes like a child.
Yeah.
Like it really does.
And it's always on your mind. Like always.
And it can always threaten you. That's why they call it limited liability corporation. Like a LLC I just blew someone's mind, Bobby. They didn't know that's what that stand is for.
There you go.
But an LLC is like
information.
The idea that why would I need to limit my liability? Because a business can actually crush you. Yeah. And so I think there's some negatives, but there are some positives. So why don't we talk about that first? So for you, Bobby, like what are some of the good things you found about, and maybe ways that this has helped you, maybe creatively, obviously, hopefully financially, but what are some things you like about having multiple things that you're doing?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I mean, obviously, look, let's not beat around the bush. I am included with Jay in saying that, like, financially, that is a lot of the motivation for starting a new business, because it is a lot of work. Different types of businesses will range, but usually it is a lot of work to see any money from that, right? And so, but that is ultimately what you want. And then, you know, for me, Jay, you kind of touched on this. And I think this is something that's underrated. I know you agree with me. I think a lot of people, you said that people like having multiple income streams. And I think people do like that, but I don't think people set out to start a new business for that specific reason a lot of times. But I do. Like, that is going into it. I am like, I want to not have all my eggs in one basket. And part of it is kind of what we're seeing. This is a whole nother topic, but what we're seeing right now with the wedding industry, 2023, probably, whether it's a down year or a kind of market correction based off of last year, like, a lot of people are hurting, and I'll be fine. I think that's what we talked about in my last episode on the podcast, which is maybe probably released by the time that this releases, but like, I'll be fine overall. But like, I'm feeling that too. Like, I'm not fully booked, and I don't expect to be this year. So having other revenue streams is really important for me, to complement the type of business that I'm running. And then lastly, the big thing that comes to mind for me is like, look, my mind is constantly working. I don't really get a day off, right? Like, there are plenty of days where I don't work, but my mind is still focused on it. And we'll talk about that in the negatives, but I am allowed a lot of freedom. I'm allowed a lot of freedom in how I want to live my life, how I want to spend my time. And being a business owner and a multi-business owner has allowed me, especially over the years, to really change. I changed my mindset on a lot of that. I started to shift to really only wanting to focus on projects that bring me some kind of personal joy and fulfillment and things that I like doing. And then to say, look, I've worked really hard at building this business. At the time, it was just the Redmond Digital Media. And I kind of wanted to like cap it and just say, I want to make sure I still love this. And I want to, and that might be different than a lot of people. And I said, I want to make sure that I'm enjoying my life, and I want to prioritize feeling healthy and feeling good. And so having other businesses has allowed me to also lean into that a little bit more.
You know what I like about having multiple businesses is like the synergy that you get between them.
Yeah.
You know, it actually reduces your cost.
Yeah. You can run way more efficiently if you are running, 8 businesses that share some similarities. And
owning a web design firm and having employees and team members who do that allows me to start a business very easily.
Yeah.
Because you
have an idea, and 72 hours later, you can have a website.
Yes. Having experience there, obviously, like I have experience. So
yeah.
Let
me rephrase. 72 hours later, you can have a good website.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the thing about it is I don't want to tell you like, oh, just start a web design firm. It's like, well, you have to be good at it too.
Yeah, you can't just say, I know a business.
But regardless,
the now exists.
There's going to be something in your life. Like, okay, you start a business, right? That's a brick and mortar store. And like, maybe haven't done this, Bobby, but say you said like, hey, listen, we're going to start this business. My only caveat is I need 500 square feet in the back from my studio.
Yeah.
You could do that. You could have a space that is yours, that you work out of, that you
totally
and you could set your own rate because you're renting to yourself.
Yeah.
So
you can get financially savvy.
You can give you a sweet deal. I have my editing studio and I pay my editing studio a good rate for me.
Yep.
And so, I know I'm helping support that employee, and I'm also, we're scratching each other's backs. Like,
for sure.
These things are, the more if you are building a systems and kind of your own business empire, we talked about that in the other episode of Told
I was
Media.
just going to say, could we call it maybe a dynasty?
You could call it an empire or a dynasty, sure. But if you build your own world to complement itself, I think that's great. And Photo Booth is great.
I was going to say there's kind of the flip side of that. We talked about kind of the back end, but on the front end of the actual service itself, especially with you, there's a lot of synergy between your businesses where you have, first of all, you have multiple tiers of wedding filmmaking. So there's kind of referrals available. So if you get a referral from somebody that's a solid lead, but it's like, oh, shoot, no, yeah, we don't have 10,000 for Huxley. I'm sorry for wasting your time. You can say, oh, well, here's my other company, Stop Go Love. Check out their work. Yes. Plus, you have the ability to say, oh, did you guys need a photo booth? Did you need cotton candy, which, you didn't end up buying it, whatever. Do you need a sign printed for your wedding? But all that stuff where you can kind of
we'll do something like
resources to reach out or to send people elsewhere.
A couple books of wedding film, right? We do something like a couple books of wedding film. And then we don't always do this. Sometimes we're like, hey, I don't want to, we're not trying to push the volume there. But say I'm like, hey, I want to generate some revenue. And I'm a little low on my sales for my photo booth. We might send an email to all our couples. Say, hey, here's $100 off.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to be there already.
Yeah.
And so I'll say we'll pick up 10, 20K.
Oh, totally.
On some of those complimentary sales. And I wouldn't call that this is the thing to think. It's a subsidiary. It's technically the same company, but it really could be its own company because it has its own website. It has its own team of people. Has its own equipment. Now what we share is office space, storage space, and internet access. And so there's some differences. But I would say I think it's a big perk to be able to just use money I've already made, clients I've already acquired to generate more revenue. Now that's not the case for all businesses. Like with our web design, there's nothing I could do to make money with web design with my wedding.
Hey, do you guys
clients.
need a wedding website?
We could do that, but I'm like, it just
that's probably not worth it.
Doesn't feel right to me, And so that's different, and it doesn't always work out. But what is great is when I buy great hosting for my clients, I get great hosting.
For sure.
So we are sharing, and I think that's one benefit. I think the other one is obviously the money, right? I was thinking about it the other day, and the little things that we sell, there are times where I'm like, I have little lines of my business that are generating 40, 50K, and I view that as kind of a failure. I'm like, that sucks. Right?
I think it would depend what it is.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like anything that's not generating six figures.
Do you think some of that though is that it's comparative?
Sure, but it's like it's really just my time, versus like the time it would take to make it a six-figure business. I'm like,
I was gonna say,
it's like I don't know if I really want to do it, so it's a little frustrating to me. But that being said, when you look at it, you're like, okay, like I literally gave that almost no time. And I was able to generate 40, 50K.
Yeah.
And like,
but don't you think that you were able to do that and to accomplish that while giving it next to no time because of the synergies within your other businesses, your experience having started and ran other businesses? Like,
yes.
Like, okay, let's say you're like, oh, it's the podcast. The podcast, let's say it's making 40K. And you're like, yeah, I wish too. And you're like, it's a failure, but like, it's very little work to have gotten there. But I would say like, if somebody was starting from nothing with no experience, it would be a lot more work.
Well, yes. And that's part of it. But I would say the positive is like, what I was getting at was like, as much as I look at that and go, oh, that's a failure. Like when you really start thinking about it, it's like, okay, but that's a whole employee for me, basically.
Yep.
Like, so, it's not as successful as I want it to be, but it's just like, it takes the pressure off of the other parts of your business that are doing really well. Definitely. It gives profit back to those businesses. It gives it the ability to like, when we need something, we buy it.
Yep.
Right? Because we have all these things that are padding our income. Right? And it's like,
totally.
I think creating a part of your own as an entrepreneur, more things that give you the ability, because there's retirement, there's savings, there's all the responsible, boring parts about money, which is fine. We can talk about that. But even just the fun side of running a business, which is making your business more successful, investing back in it, taking money and doing fun things with your money, going on vacation, like the fun parts about money, like it allows that to be much more attainable when one thing can have a down year and the other thing can pick up the slack.
Yep, definitely. Well, I think basically, the what that essentially goes back to is just, not the multiple streams and not having all your eggs in one basket. And there's some distinct benefits to that for sure.
For sure. So I would say the other positive that I see in a really clear way is like, how like people get burnt out?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are like, I'm overworked. And I really am like, no, you're bored. You're in a rut.
How about you're not overworked, you are overwork.
Yes.
You're just past it. You're mentally don't care about
or like you get like, there's this concept in the Bible, right? Where they talk about every 7 years, which this is very socialist of them, but they say there's a year of Jubilee, right? And everyone who had any debt, it's washed away. Right? And so like that was how the Jews did it in the olden days. They would also say you rotate your crops, right? They say, you let the fields go fallow. You don't plant any crops in this field for a season. You never plant the same crop twice, too. So you're constantly rotating your fields, which is still a farming concept today, right? It's like every area where you're planting seeds, everything that you're creating needs a break. Just so that you can...
I can get behind that.
Just so you can plant the same seeds later. I think you just need a
breath of fresh air.
Yeah, you just need like a little bit of a change of scenery. And a lot of people, I think, take this too far. They're like, I'm going to stop. Yeah. It's like, no, you just need to shift gears. A lot of times, like, you just work on something else for a month. And you come back to that thing you were working on. Or even a week or a couple days. And you come back and you feel, your brain is kind of... like chewed on the situation a little, you've thought about it, and then you sit back in that edit. Because what a lot of people do is it's like, you're done with the edit. You can't do any better until you get a breakthrough. Just do something more productive with your time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think it is especially true in a creative industry or a creative endeavor or something like that. I think when you're stretched creatively or you're burnt out creatively, that feels a lot different than... let's compare it to just a sales job or whatever, right? And I agree. I think being able to step away, like I'm a big proponent of I am going to edit or if I really don't want to edit, I'm not going to edit. But the flip side of that is when I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm in the zone, I'll edit for 12 hours. Like I just won't eat. I won't eat.
Clarity.
I won't leave
you have clarity on what you're doing, and it feels good to do it. And you know, having
and I need those breaks. I need those in betweens where I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm not editing. But as we mentioned before, my mind is always on my businesses, and I'm definitely not working.
Well, that's a good thing, and I think that's being portrayed as a negative with people, where they're like, you need to stop working, and it's like, no, you need to stop working on things that are not productive.
Yeah,
no one is like,
go do your accounting for the month.
You know why people become workaholics, Bobby?
Why?
Because they're good at work.
Oh,
have you ever met a workaholic who sucks at work?
No,
they're all good,
probably.
And they're the reason they like doing it is because every time they do it, they feel good, and
get that dopamine drip.
Yeah, it's a high, and so it's like
you hit a new standard, you hit a new, I made this much, I raised this, or I brought in this many new clients, and you're getting those.
Oh, that's good. So you're solving problems. You're creating more order in the world. You are doing something productive with your time. And I think a lot of people who are creatives are burnt out because if they were to really be realistic, like if you're doing 20 weddings, let's be honest, what is that? 1 hour in sales, 20 hours. Max, maybe 2 hours. We'll even give them 48 hours of sales, 60 hours of sales and client management, 80. I'll give them 80 hours out of 25 weddings that they're spending. That's 4 weeks of work. You got 52 more to fill up, right?
Yeah.
So you got 48 hours. So let's give them 10 hours per wedding film. That's 250. What is that like? 6 weeks of work. Okay. You got 10 weeks out of 52 taken up. You got another 40 weeks left or 42 weeks.
Yeah.
Out of that, you got editing. Let's imagine you did one per week, which is reasonable.
20 more weeks.
Right? Like 25 more weeks. You have like 20 extra weeks on your year. And so many people, that's all they do. What I just told you, they're going to tell you they're overworked. And I'm like, no, you're just inefficient and you're in a rut. And you need to do something to break up the monotony of it to keep you
that
sizzling.
Inefficiency, I think, is the dangerous part. Because I think that you feel overworked because you're spending, instead of spending, 2 hours finding music and 6 hours editing or whatever, you're spending 8 hours sitting on just the intro to your film, questioning it over and over and over and over. And I don't know.
Your brain knows that you should be doing something productive with your time.
Yeah.
And you can't freaking hijack that.
Well, you can't force it to do the thing that you should be doing necessarily.
But
either,
you can't force it to not be. Sometimes. You can't force your brain to not be dissatisfied with being unproductive. It will always feel that way. And I don't mean because people are like, oh, well, you think I should be working? No, you know what's very productive? Rest.
Yeah.
Rest is productive. Everything you love doing is productive. It's producing.
You know what else is important? Community.
Community is productive. People are productive. Every one of them is producing something that you need as a human being to thrive, right? And so, I don't think you should be taking 20 weeks off. Maybe that's fine for you, whatever. But I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, I need to do less because I'm so burnt out. And I'm like, no, maybe you should start another business.
Yeah.
Maybe you should do something that lets you break up the monotony of running a wedding filmmaking business and just only doing that. It could be great, And I think it's just there's the money side, but I also think it actually can make you have better films.
Yeah, I think it can allow you to, like we said, kind of focus your brain elsewhere when you need to and allow it that it's not overall rest. It's just rest off of being creative sometimes, rest off of editing a wedding sometimes.
Gives you a break.
And then you come back and you're amped and you have all these ideas and it falls in place and it just starts to work.
You're ready to rock. And I love that. And I think I've seen that over and over again is why people are like, why are you excited about all this stuff still? I'm like, I'm excited because I barely work on any of it.
Yeah.
I'm popping.
Well, and that's it's
exciting.
I kind of mentioned this. I'm intentional with what, I just know the amount of wedding films that I can handle in roughly a year where I can still, because my main goal is to always be excited and to always enjoy it. And I know where I start to say, I'm not liking this anymore. Like this is becoming, it's too much stress, too much pressure for me. And yeah, so that was, it was very much an intentional decision because yeah, I want to still like it. And I know the rest that my brain needs. And it's not rest specifically, it's just that's why I have the other businesses.
Well, and it's not like
I'll
a childish, immature, like kind of like, and I don't want to say childish, but like there's a little bit of a, well, an entitled kind of view that you shouldn't be stressed or you shouldn't have to do anything boring like work is boring a lot of times.
Yeah, and don't worry, I still have plenty of stress. So
yes. But it is like,
it's different categories, and it doesn't pile up the same way.
I want to live on fire, man. I want to be on fire. I want to like go my life and do as much as I can because I only have one life to live, and I want my life to be beautiful. I want it to produce value for the world. I want to give my kids something. I want to create some things of value. There's a book I read, and they talk about immortality projects. And it's like, that's just a desire people have like innately to do something that's beyond them, that lasts.
Yeah, that lasts beyond their lifetime.
Yeah, and I think it's like, so I don't have a problem like just going and like, I went to a concert last night. I went to a vacation for 2 days. We just on impromptu, literally on Monday. I was like, oh, there's comedians in town. I want
to be gone.
Me and my wife just went and we hung out. Like, I feel like I was in Tokyo for 10 or 6 days. Like, I feel like I don't really have a lot of sympathy, I guess, for people who are always like, blah, 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 work-life balance. I'm like, do you want to do more fun stuff than I get to do? And I have all these other things going on in my life. And I just can't understand what the problem is. And what I end up finding out is like the work that they're doing currently, they resent.
Well, and I think having multiple businesses and stuff requires a lot of intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be intentional with your time. You have to be intentional about your goals. You have to be intentional about the life that, like, basically where are the limits on how it impacts your life.
Yep.
It's a very dangerous scenario to get into if you aren't.
And it's gotten me good. So I think we should talk about that.
Yeah.
What are like, we've pumped this up. We made it seem like the only possible good thing, and now we're going to tell you it's not. Tell you like there's a lot. It's definitely a double-edged sword, and you definitely want to tread carefully when it comes to multiple business. What have been for you? Like, is this like kind of new for you? Was there something in your life before the Wilderness, or is this your first time like doing?
No,
two
I
things?
mean wedding film school has been a handful of years, but definitely adding the Wilderness added in a lot more. But I will say, like, I know myself, and actually I will say from the start, like, so again, I have one main business partner, and now we actually have a third investor who just came on, who's also a good friend of mine. And
do they want to invest in wedding film school?
Just as a maybe
anyway.
I don't know. But so like, from the beginning, I think I did overestimate the level of involvement that I could have and stuff like that. So I have kind of scaled that back and stuff like that intentionally, because the intentionality was so important to me of like, you have to be realistic. I think that's, like I said, that's the downside. You have to be realistic because it's so easy for it to take over your life. Any business you have, even if I just had Redmond Digital Media or just had Wedding Film School or whatever, like it's very easy for you to kind of get suffocated by one business or by one thing. Or
yeah, you have to, if you have multiple businesses, I always say this, the baby's got to eat.
Yeah.
And they're all going to be crying in the nursery. And you got to go in there and give them all a bottle. And if you don't, it's either going to keep crying or a baby's going to die. But
yeah, exactly. That's, weird metaphor, Jay, but that's exactly it, right? Where it's like, look, you any one of those businesses, any business can take over your life in a variety of ways, shapes, and forms, or destroy your life, right? It can destroy you financially, whatever. But it can destroy personal relationships, like tons of stuff. So if you have 3 businesses, or 5 businesses or whatever, that's just 3 times or 5 times more likely. Now, we talked about there's some synergies and efficiencies that make that maybe if you have 5 businesses, it's only 4.5 times more likely, but the likelihood increases. And then I think the like maybe smaller scale is like the time for me. The time thing is so hard. Having the motivation always can be difficult, even if you are splitting your time well and being intentional with that. And I think what I find most is like, even with being intentional and wanting to make sure I enjoy everything that I'm involved in and doing the things that I love and outsourcing the things that I don't love, which I feel like we've done a podcast episode on, you and I, Jay. It's very easy for time to just get lost. Like I have so many small tasks, ones that
yesterday was a total waste of time for me.
Yeah, I'll just have days where I'm like, I'll have days where I'm like, I'm not working today, and that's one of those freedoms that I am allotted, and I love that. But I have days where I'm like, yep, I've got a full steam ahead. I got my coffee. I'm good to go. I got nothing till 6 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock rolls around and I haven't moved, and I'm like, wow, what did I even accomplish today? And I know I'm doing stuff all day. Like I'm doing these dumb little small tasks, and my mind is always on. It's always working. And so I think those are the downsides for me.
I look at it, and I was in a when I think one of the negatives that happens is like I was kind of mentioning, like, it is like children, right? And that like your time is no longer your own. And also random emergencies can happen at any given time.
This is true.
I will say, I didn't mention this before because this is a wedding filmmaker podcast, believe it or not.
That is true.
And wedding filmmaking is particularly conducive to a second line of business.
Yeah.
Because
I would agree with that.
It's seasonal. Most of it only happens on a Saturday, and most other things happen Monday through Friday. The things you buy, cameras, computers, the skills you learn, marketing, making videos, they enhance anything else you start.
Yep.
So essentially
to other areas.
You're a marketing arm of anything you start. So that's a positive. So I think it is all the negatives I'm about to say. Wedding filmmaking is particularly conducive to helping live the lifestyle that I live. That being said, the time is still not my own, right?
Yeah.
Like any random thing can happen any day. Like for instance, I have this one thing I'm supposed to be doing with the state of Illinois with taxes or something.
Sounds fun.
That I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like my CPA is like, you need to fill this thing out. I'm like, what?
You're like, that's your job.
No, and they're like, no, only you can do
making
that.
Wedding films.
Only you can do that. And I'm like, huh? And I I need to know about, I spend my day trying to figure out healthcare for my employees. It's
a lot of putting little fires out.
Yeah. And
those little fires, even if they're small, end up taking the whole day.
And it sucks because it's like, I want to be making content for wedding filmmakers. I want to be doing things that are, and here's what I will say, like as much as it does interrupt, the positive is you got to be just patient and typically it'll work itself out.
Yep.
The negative is everything takes forever now.
Yeah.
Like everything I want to do, like, you know what I think the biggest thing I'm noticing a lot in my life, Bobby, is I actually have windows that close. I'm trying to use that language more now to say to people,
I like that. Yeah.
If you don't hit my window, you got to take another orbit around the atmosphere.
Yeah. Like circle back.
Yeah.
And hopefully it works next time. But right now I'm on to the next thing.
I got a 2-week window. If we don't get this done, it's done. I got a 3, like I have certain windows of time. Like right now my goal is to do 30 podcasts before the end of, I would say April, but I'm really in my heart, I'm saying March, but it's not going to happen. But but I want to get them done because I want to be able to focus when my business, other part of my life, starts picking up, and I'm going to have a kid in June. So like,
I guess that's pretty important.
There's a lot of chaos that's about to happen, and so it's like my time isn't my own. Is my point. Like I pretty much am like a farmer. Right? Yeah. Which when the winter comes, I do one thing. When the rain comes, I do another thing. It's not up to me anymore.
and whatever.
Yeah, for all the freedom
of seasonality and stuff.
Yeah, for all the freedom I've gained, I've lost a lot of freedom, and I think like.
Do you think though that like, I don't disagree with you on that statement, but do you think that like, okay, you could be that's just being a mature adult in some ways.
Yes,
like,
I would agree.
Like replace owning a business with working a salaried 40-hour job. Replace that with, I don't know, what, I guess we're kind of just talking about work. So that's the best.
I would say
replace that with being a day trader. Like that's not technically a business, right?
Well,
like
day trader's crazy. Day trader's crazy, but like
yeah, it's just like you're always going to be in some way, shape, or form like a slave to like some thing out of your control.
I think yes, but I think when it comes to the liability side of owning a business, it's not the same. Like yes,
that's true.
So the pressure feels different.
Yep.
It feels because I would say like,
well, it's on your shoulders. Success, like if I'm working salaried 40 hours a week for a marketing agency as their in-house videographer, I mean,
you can work a job and not give a crap about the job.
Yeah, like I'm not going to say I don't care about them, but like
you could.
I don't really give a shit if they have a slow month as long as I get fired. Like I'm still making your videos, whatever.
And you actually don't care. Like you don't have to care if what you're doing is actually good. Or like, I think most people prefer to be productive. Most people prefer to do a good job. Like most people do.
Definitely.
But like you could just not.
You could just do what is required and not really
show up at work. I get my pay and I don't care. I'm literally just thinking about like my strategy for League of Legends all day.
Yeah.
And I go
and
home
you're like, oh, well, I get paid next Friday and then I get paid 2 Fridays after that. And here's what I make every month. But there's also limits to that.
It doesn't allow you to expand to the levels of your talent. And I think like that's what entrepreneurship is all about, is like, if I can be good enough, I can do better.
I like that.
Like if I can work hard enough, if I have the best idea, if I have the best value proposition to the market, I can win.
Yep.
If you don't own your own business, if you can kiss up to the boss enough, or if you can do good enough work, but maybe not, that actually gets noticed, it's just way less.
There's a lot more variables there.
There's
a lot of variables no matter what.
There's less of a linear path though. It's not like my efforts are rewarded.
Yeah.
You can work a job and your efforts are not rewarded, and which is why people don't put as maximum effort in. And there's a negative with that, which is I don't think that's the best for you and your soul. Like I think everyone should, like, people are happier when they're doing their best.
Yeah.
But I also think the negative is like when I don't think if I work a job that I'm not like either in a leadership position of, or like maybe I'm owning a company.
Yeah.
That keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
That wakes me up. There are times where I go downstairs and work on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Because I cannot sleep and my wife thinks I'm crazy. Been a while. but especially like I remember during pandemic, borderline destroyed my mind.
Really?
Yeah. I would say like the absolute terror of losing everything.
Yeah.
And that can
just a lot up in the air during that time.
And it like in the 2 years, because I was living in 2022 in 2020. I knew what was going to happen to the market. I knew the compression. I knew the crazy demand spike that was going to happen. I knew that by the time 2021 hit, the demand would be crazy and I would not be prepared because I lost a whole season of training. And like, I am living in that fear the second the economy shut down. I'm like, this is going to be the worst for 2 years. Wedding Film School, it's going to destroy Wedding Film School. I'm not going to be able to do what I wanted to do. I just invested in this. I want it to go well. Now it's screwed. I'm like, we're picking up all this stuff with education. Now we're screwed. I just invested in freaking Huxley Film and developing this brand, and now we're screwed. Like every single thing about that, it doesn't happen when it happened. If you're a business owner, it happens the second you think about it.
Yeah.
Like the fear that you have owning this business is tangible and palpable. And if you don't like,
and it can affect you. It can affect you physically. It can affect you mentally. Obviously, it can affect you, the decisions you make. And then on the other side of it, 2 years later, you could say, wow, I am so glad that I prepared accordingly and I got through this and things
we made great. Most of the right decisions.
Yeah. Or you could look back, unfortunately, and say, oh my gosh, I thought this was going to be a whole terrible thing and it wasn't. And I made all these decisions that were the wrong ones. And I'm not saying that is the case that for you guys or for anybody, or it isn't, but I'm just saying like it eats away at your mind as a business owner.
This is what I'll say. Do you remember the end of Avengers Endgame?
I don't know. I can't keep any of those straight.
Do you remember, when Iron Man died?
Is that the giant battle?
Yeah, when Iron Man died.
I'm not the best person to talk to about this.
Well, Iron Man dies, if you didn't know.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. Iron Man dies at the end of Avengers Endgame. Grabs the Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos, right? He doesn't know, and then he's like, I am Iron Man. Uses the power. Then he dies. That's what a business is. Like,
yeah.
I use the Infinity Gauntlet to survive my business at my personal expense.
Yeah.
Like we did great and we grew a lot, but I paid a price.
Yeah. It takes a toll on you.
It takes a toll on you.
And then in line with the current, sorry, my dog is sneezing.
Good.
And then in line with the topic for today, it's like, again, like what I was saying earlier, if you have multiple businesses, that's multiple streams that can take a toll on you for any variety of reasons. Because there are things like, there are overarching things, pandemic, things like that affect every business, right?
I mean, the good thing about any problem that you have is that there's actually no way to avoid the problem by doing any certain thing.
Yeah.
And
then there's also like industry specific things.
Sure. But my point is like stress.
Things.
The things that people want to avoid are not usually specific. They're usually emotional and personal hardships.
Definitely.
Like, oh, my marriage or my mental health or my physical health. Good news for you is that owning a business is just one way to screw those things up. There's a lot of ways to screw those things up. And so like by not doing more things or not owning a business, you're not protecting yourself from that. You are. This is why like I'm telling you the negatives, because a lot of people are like, wow, you're so successful. You do so much, Jay. And I'm like, yeah, I do.
You think that's interesting? Like I've met people, in various, we'll call them situations, circumstances, whatever, business, personal, professional, whatever, right? You meet people a variety of ways. And usually you get to talking about work and, I'll say what I do. And I'm not somebody who likes to talk about myself a whole lot. So they'll usually dig a little bit more. And then it will kind of get to the point where I'm like, yeah, I own a production company and I also own an education platform. And then I have a co-working space in Minneapolis. And like, I think by that inherently people are like, oh my God, like, oh yeah, wow, look at you. Like you're so, and it's like, you're so successful. And it's like, I don't feel that way.
No,
like I do in some ways, but I don't think that inherently makes you successful. And I don't like that.
I think I'm okay saying that I'm successful because I just think, oh yeah, objectively, I have some success.
I think I've had success, but I've also had failures. Like everybody has. I think, and also, why is the value of a business somehow more important than the value of your friendships or the value of your hobbies or the value of your physical health or the value of your relationships?
Well, I'll tell you this, there's a reason I still work at a church.
Yeah.
Because there are things that are more important to me than money. And I think everyone has to have those things. I'm not advocating for people being religious. I'm advocating for you to have transcendence, something that's bigger than whatever it is that you see.
Yeah.
Right. It has to be. You mentioned community. I'm big in community. You mentioned family is huge. Impact. What am I doing and how is it impacting other people? For me, that's what the reason I do all the things I do is because I'm like, well, I believe in that. Well, I believe in that. Well, I believe in anything I believe in. I'm actually have one job in my whole life. You just do things I believe in. I have a coherent worldview, and everything I do supports my worldview, in different ways, and it's not about pushing my worldview on other people because, we're not, it's not like I'm running a Christian wedding film company or like that's not what my goal is at all. But it's like my beliefs, whatever your beliefs are, should be supporting your actions. And I think a lot of people need to take a step back and say, like, what impact do I want to make? And so for some people, they might go, like, in order to make that impact, I need to have multiple businesses. Like for you, fitness is a big deal.
Yeah.
You believe in that. It's your lifestyle. It's what you love. It's like what you do. You would do it for free. Some of it.
Yep.
Right?
True. Yes.
Why not make that part of how you make money? Right?
Yeah.
I think like that's really what it comes down to.
It's like, what do you believe in? Like,
yes.
What you believe in is maybe not like always perfect, but like that's a good way to think about it. And it's like, why did I do wedding filmmaking? Well, partially I kind of fell into it, but why did I do filmmaking? Because I love it.
Yeah.
I care about it.
Yep.
I think it's good. I think it's good for me. I think it's good for other people.
Yeah, you even said I believe in community, fitness. Right? It's like
exactly
weddings are connected to community, families, all this positive stuff. It's good vibes,
It's good vibes. That's really what do I believe in?
Good vibes. Good vibes. That's your next company is going to be like Bobby's Margarita Company. Good vibes.
Good Vibes Coffee Co.
Yeah, but
coming to a city near you.
I will say this, and this is the last thing I'll get into.
All right.
Because I think like these are some of the negatives. There's a lot of negatives, and don't go in lightly. The other negatives are some people have terrible ideas.
Yep.
And I would really tell you, there's nothing wrong with having one job.
And, We're not saying like, oh, you want to be successful, you need multiple businesses.
Or you're the more cooler, betterest person or some crap, right? Like one of the things that I have seen more than people who are starting too many businesses, more than people who are burnt out from all their businesses doing too well, are people who I'm like, why would you ever think that was going to do well? And that's a slippery slope because it's like, who am I to say that? But also,
I think there is some amount of like I'm not saying don't ever try a business, but I think there is early on where you can say like the Wilderness is a great example, honestly, Jay. Like, look, we understand co-working is a thing. Gyms are a thing, but there is nobody in our area. And now Lifetime Fitness has done something similar. They're testing it. There's nobody who really meshed those two together. And we have no idea if that's going to be well received. And some businesses, you kind of just got to jump into the deep end and see. And some businesses, you can test the waters a little bit. It's maybe not as much up in front investment. Like a wedding video company, you could rent everything and say, do I like this? Do people like what I want to put together? Could this be a thing? It's a relatively small investment of your time and some money and, some learning. But like, I think you got to test those waters sometimes.
You got to look and say, like, again, liability. What is the risk if this fails?
Yes. Yep.
What is the risk? What am I giving up?
And am I willing to take that risk?
Yep.
Is that worth it to me?
What is
because on the flip side, what is the possibility? Like, what does it look like if it succeeds?
Because let me give you three things. If you're considering starting a business, you have to be able to answer these questions. What is the risk if it fails? What is my exit strategy? How long am I willing to do this and not make money?
Yeah.
Like when will it make money? What is the profitability scenario? What is the roadmap to profit? Yeah. My opinion is you should not have less than a 3-year roadmap. Now it should pay for itself, or at least, if you have people financing it or whatever, there are other ways to do it. But most people, I think, don't have anyone investing. They just have an idea. If you can't afford for it to be not profitable for 3 years, if the answer is like, well, what will happen if I fail? I'll lose my house. Okay. I don't know if that's worth it because most likely will fail. I think I remember reading somewhere like 90% of people who start a business fail. Maybe more.
It might even be more.
I think it was more. It was a huge number. It was like, whoa, that's crazy. Very sobering. You'll probably fail. You got to keep that in mind. Anything you start will probably fail. And by fail, I mean not be profitable. Like it might breaking even is not success.
I mean, don't you think, Jay, like it's almost like, so look, there's some wonderful ideas that should succeed. And for a variety of reasons, they do not. That could be a product, could be a service, whatever. And it's the same with wedding films. Like we've talked about this before. I've said this for years. There are some great filmmakers, some great photographers. And for some reason, those businesses just never reach their potential. They never really succeed. They never get profitable to where they could be full-time. And there's tons of things we could never know about why. But like, just because you have a good idea, just because you have
I'll
a good
tell
product,
you this,
just because you have a good business
I might
idea,
know because I have
succeed.
more insight. I might know, but like because I have outside perspective.
True.
It's really hard for you to know why everything fails,
especially on the front end.
Well, if you knew, you wouldn't have done it that way.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, just know you're probably going to fail. And so this is why the second question is, what's the exit strategy? Well, the exit strategy is a big, big, big thing, right? If you look at it and go like, well, worst case scenario, if it fails, is I lose $10,000 or $20,000 I'll never get back, but I can sell all the assets and I can get out of my debt.
Yep.
And I'll walk out with licking my wounds, but I won't lose my house.
Yep.
So what is the worst case scenario and what's the exit strategy? Like, and not like, oh, I'm going to sell my stuff. Oh, I'm going to buy all this like printer equipment. That was a stupid decision because the secondary market is garbage on that stuff and I can't sell it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants it. Like, and so now I'm stuck with it. Like I'm going to have to spend another $1,000 to dispose of it. Right. And it's one of those things where like, that was a dumb decision. Now, given my worst case scenario was like, meh, like my exit strategy is I'll figure it out later. I can afford $10,000. And that's it. But say that was my only $10,000 to start a secondary business.
Yeah.
I had $10,000. I had one shot.
Well, it's opportunity cost then. Where else could it have gone?
That's
what
a
else
waste.
Could I have done with this?
That's a waste of money. And like, I would say if you can't really think through, like, if you can't endure any years of non-profitability, if you don't know how you're going to get out of it and you haven't even researched it, like at least go to eBay and see how much the stuff is selling for. And and also
like,
make sure
I'll take a 20% hit.
Make sure you research recently sold. Don't just look at what it's ever sold for. And it's like,
for sure.
Like I promise you could find a Canon Mark D 5D Mark II that sold for $1,500 and you're not going to sell them for that now.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing is like assessing the risk. And if you look at all three and you're like, I can deal with the risk. I can get out of it if I have to. And you know what? I love this enough. I'm good enough at it and I believe in it enough that I'm willing to work on it even before I see the return. Go for it.
Then I think you go for it. And I think look, there are a lot of, like we said, there are a lot of positives of this too.
It's great.
I think you go for it. I think you be intentional with it. I think you protect yourself in a variety of ways.
You know what I would do if I was just a solo guy? If I was a solo wedding filmmaker, I would open a coffee shop with breakfast. I would
I want to do, Jay, giving away my ideas.
Yep, Jay's Coffee. No, I want to make egg sandwiches, man. I want to make freaking egg sandwiches.
That's what I want to make. Just breakfast sandwiches, good coffee.
We could start that business.
Should we do? What's the middle for us? Like what would that be? No, Indiana.
Kill me. No.
Right in between us. Let's do it.
Indianapolis is quite literally the most boring city I've ever. I used to have to go to.
All right, we'll open one in Boston.
If you live in Indianapolis, I'm sorry. I used to go to a conference there once a year for marketing for hardware stores.
Well, that's your mistake right there, Jay.
And
I can tell you right off the bat, that's not going to be very fun.
It literally like I would stay right in downtown, and if you didn't get some food before 9:00, you ain't eating. And
that's why he loves egg sandwiches, because he couldn't wait till he woke up and ate an egg sandwich.
I love egg sandwiches, but like regardless, it's like I would start a business that was open from like 8 a.m. to like 3 p.m.
Yep.
I would probably only be open Tuesday through Friday.
Yep.
And I would use the space I owned to edit my films in.
Yeah.
and like I would try to double dip, you know, make money. Like I'm always thinking anything I buy, I want it to make money as many ways as possible. And so like, yeah, I would do that for sure. It's like, I couldn't help myself. I could never do one thing. Every time I buy something, I'm like, this hard drive just sitting here.
What else can I do with this?
This hard drive just sitting here, not making me any money. This hard drive is making me money. It's like, so I think like, that's me. And I think more wedding filmmakers should be, when I hear people talking about wanting to do less work all the time, I actually think it's the total opposite. I think more people should be doing more things. They would be happy.
Differentiate a little bit.
Yes,
better.
for sure. And like create multiple streams of income.
Oh, I think that's just a really interesting like concept or thought. And I think it kind of goes against the grain. And I think I've probably said maybe not the opposite, but something that's not totally aligned with that at times. But I think I kind of agree with that too. Like, or I guess I would say, I think that you should try it. Try working differently. Try something new. I agree that I don't think it necessarily is that you're overworked. I think burnout is different than being overworked. I think a lot of people confuse the two. And I think setting your mind, setting your brain to something else, even if it's still work, it's different work. I think that can kind of solve that.
Change of pace, break the rust off. Just like, even if it's like,
and then come back refreshed.
Even if like you're like, like wedding filmmaking is my main thing. But like, I do a little, like, you know, I know a guy who used to like have a YouTube, you know, he had a TikTok channel of opening baseball cards. And then he would sell these baseball card packs on eBay. Yeah. And it's like, that eventually became his full-time job.
Yeah.
But he started it.
Don't you think a lot, especially like kind of, I don't want to call that like a new industry because baseball cards aren't new, but maybe doing it on TikTok is more new, right? But like a lot of stuff like that, it starts as something on the side and very small. And it's because you're passionate about it and you keep doing it for 3 years until you're starting to make money off of it because you like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your passion could become your side biz or your full biz. Yep. You never know. Totally. There are people who wedding filmmaking might become their side hustle and woodworking becomes their main business. Yeah. You know what I noticed the other day? And then there's a channel, Alvin Zhao or something. He makes food. And it's all like this, like he'd like 24-hour, 48-hour chocolate cookies and 400-hour, like, 400 but it's like he always has numbers, right? And it's it's really over the top recipes, and he's like very humble kitchen, but it's filmed so good. It's beautiful. It's like
and he cares about it. He probably loves doing.
Okay, here's the deal. He did it for years. And I think he just like made, he had millions of plays on his videos, so he probably made some good money. But that wasn't his job, I don't believe. He must have worked in the culinary industry. Now I noticed recently, you ever seen Binging with Babish? Babish. Okay, I noticed this new series popping up called Anime with Alvin. Okay, and he makes food from animes. And I'm like, cool. And I'm like, I know this guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy who I used to watch on that other YouTube channel.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And now I don't know what happened, how he joined the channel. Like, I'm assuming he's making money now, and he's working full time for Babish on the Babish Culinary Universe, in that universe. Yeah. And it's like, you don't know, what the thing you're doing. Treat your passion like a job. And I it gets treated so negatively to be like, a job. It's like, no, treat it like a job.
I will say, I think there's one caveat to that, Jay, which is always protect what you care about.
Sure.
Because it is easy to turn something into a job and then hate it.
Well, and to me, a job doesn't mean you do something for making money. But to me, when I say a job is, I do it in a disciplined way.
I like that.
Like, not just when I show up and do it. Like, I don't think most things there's a lot of things you can do whenever you feel like. Video games are not a job. I play video games only when I feel like it. If I don't play video games for 3 weeks, it's because I didn't want to do it. If I play video games for the next 3 days, it's because I felt like doing it. I'm not saying treat that like a job.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, take the thing that you're like, I see some potential in here and I love it. Like, I love doing this and I see potential. try treating that like a job for a while, where you do it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to do 1 video a week on YouTube. I'm going to do 2 hours a day of woodworking. I'm going to
see what comes of it.
I'm going to put something on Etsy. Like, that's a way to ease into a business. We talked a lot about like high risk business investments. You buy a bunch of products.
There's a lot of low risk.
You get a lease. You do all these things. You could just do things that you love, that you're passionate about. You could, on the side, go shoot. You're doing the wedding.
That's how a lot of weddings filmmakers start.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
That's how you started as a wedding filmmaker. So like you could say, I'm going to go to 5 local businesses every week in a disciplined way. I love shooting. I'm going to shoot pieces for these people for 10 straight weeks until and I'm going to make 10 videos, and I'm going to treat it like a job. So I'm not going to shoot them, and then when I feel like it, edit them.
Yeah.
No, don't freaking do that. You just wasted your whole day shooting. Shoot it and edit it. Get it freaking done. Put it out into the world. See what happens.
Yeah.
You might have another business or another line of business.
Or another revenue stream or whatnot.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me too.
I think that's a good point to end, Jay. I think we're over an hour now. And
we're over. This show sucks now. This show's terrible. It's decaying before our eyes.
Yeah.
But
I think this was a very solid. I know we went kind of all over the board. We definitely went down some rabbit holes and tangents, but I think it all kind of circles back to what we were talking about and what it's like. And I think it's just us being real about what it's like with multiple businesses and stuff. And so I'm hoping people find this helpful. I think there are a lot of people with multiple businesses, and I think there are a lot of people who know that when the right idea comes along, they anticipate trying another business.
I would say you should try to do it. You should be okay with failure.
Yep.
You should just make sure you don't
plan accordingly.
Don't lose your house. That would be good. Yeah. And I guess if you want to take that risk, by the way, like I'm not opposed to you putting your house up and maybe you do lose your house. But that's just, I don't have that risk tolerance personally, but
I don't either.
But regardless, I would love to see more filmmakers who are just using the fact that they actually only have like 30 weeks of work a year.
Yeah.
Maximum as a wedding filmmaker to be realistic and say, I got 20 weeks, I got 10 weeks. What can I do with it?
Yeah.
Can I improve my lifestyle? So we would love that. We think wedding filmmaking is a great career for a lot of reasons, and this is one of them. It lets you to do lots of different things. So if you like this podcast and you like learning about wedding filmmaking, if you like this industry like we do, we love the wedding industry. This is one of the reasons we love it, because it affords us...
We love you, wedding industry.
It's the best. It affords us this privilege to spend our time podcasting or starting gyms or doing all these extra things that we love.
Just the 2 things most wedding videographers do.
Yes. I think most of us do have podcasts probably, but... But regardless, it's great. And if you like that, give us 5 stars. Check out our channels, Wedding Film School and the Wedding Film School Show on YouTube. And of course, leave us a review. It helps us a lot. Hopefully you've had a great time listening to this, and you're going to be here next week for the Wedding Film School Show. See you guys.
Heck yeah.